Hello, adventurers. Welcome to this 31st episode of Adventurous Spirits. This is a weekly live musical podcast with the intention of gathering us who are longing for a bigger piece of the world and all that it has to offer. Because that is a stubborn desire to reckon with. And it ebbs and flows. Sometimes it leads you to the actual thing that you seek, which is to have that big experience. And sometimes it just kind of keeps you thirsty for more in a way that isn't really reasonable. You know, you kind of want everything to change now. Or I do anyway. So whether you are longing for adventure in the world of your career or your finances or your relationships, your creativity, all of the above, this is what we're here for. So you're in the right place. Welcome. If you're listening live, go ahead and pop in the chat what sort of adventures life is bringing you right now, which ones you would like more of, and roughly where in the world you're experiencing these. I'm here in Hollywood, California. It's a beautiful sunny day, very breezy. I've been out and about all morning because I had to go to the DMV, which is just everybody's favorite thing to do. But it actually was quite pleasant today. I tried to get there early. I didn't get there as early as I wanted to. Partly because I've been catching up on sleep. And when I woke up this morning, I was like, oh, I finally slept all night for the first time in several days. And I kind of don't want to rush myself to get out the door. So I said, I guess I'm going to go to the DMV at 10 instead of at 9. So that was my adventure today. Well, the first one anyway. So, anyway, I just can't seem to get through my entire introduction without interrupting and talking about stuff. So let me just finish up by saying that the world is full of intimidating but thrilling endeavors, and we are people who pursue them. So let's come together here and support those daily efforts that get us to the major milestones that are celebratory, that feel like, yes, this is the life that I want. So here we are in episode number 31. We're in the third decade, so to speak, of our show. And I am your host, Cortney Matz. I'm going to be serenading you along the way. I have a few songs that I wrote from my own adventures in life and that I hope encourage you in yours and help tell your story. Because every personal growth journey needs a good soundtrack. Oh, Steve is here. Hello, Steve. He says, over the weekend, the adventure life brought me was a writing retreat. No kidding. That was a big adventure. I was part of that adventure as well. It was wonderful. It was a really fun retreat. We hosted 10 writers, 2 of whom were from out of town, which that was cool. And we had about half people who have been to an Epiphany Space writing retreat before and about half who had not. And I think it was a good balance of work. People were sitting and focusing and writing, and interactive time for folks to get to know one another, to talk about the journey, to discuss their aspirations and things that were holding them up, things that were getting in the way, and also to encourage each other. And one fun thing about our retreat is that at the end, well, on the last day, I should say, we have some actors come in and they read the words that we've been writing all weekend, and that's a really good time. It's a really good time. One, it gives each of us a chance to hear what our fellow writers have been working on, because we've been talking about it for a day and a half, and now it's like, oh, let me hear it. And it's also good for the writers who have written those words to hear the room responding to them, to be able to hear them out loud, to be able to hear someone else interpreting them. So at this retreat that I help lead with 2 other women, Kara Christensen and Becky Murdoch here at Epiphany Space, we have a lot of opportunities to be supportive of one another and have some fresh thoughts about that, because artists aren't that easy to encourage. Partly because I think we're stubborn. We are set in what we think success looks like, and it's hard for us to accept anything else. Let me tell you, I am a very stubborn person. It's really hard for me sometimes to see the big picture of life and my work. So I am learning this through doing it. I am learning to get past the stubbornness and learning to find real sources of encouragement and beyond just keep going, or you got this, something that has a little meat to it, some heft, so that it's like evidence. It's like evidence that I'm doing well, that I'm doing something important, that I haven't wasted all of my time trying to be an artist. So I want to share some of those thoughts with you and also hear some of your thoughts. And I wonder, just as I get into our first song, my question for you, audience, listeners, people who are listening now and people who are listening later, have you had someone try to encourage you in your creativity and it had the opposite of its intended effect? I will tell you my story after this song, but yes, I think it is so easy for very well-meaning people, myself included, to offer words that are meant to be uplifting. They're meant to help you see the bright side. They're meant to just like give you strength to carry on, and instead they don't. So I'm going to play you the song that I wrote for my brother many years ago. And this is at a time in his life when he was sort of at that quintessential crossroads thing, trying to decide, do I put all my eggs in this adventurous basket, or do I just go find something else to do? And I was driving along one day, and I was thinking about him, and the phrase, "You've got a future out there somewhere, and you got to go find it," came into my brain. And then a few years later, I moved to Los Angeles, and I was playing this song, and I thought, I need these words for myself. I need to be reminded that I am working towards something. Like, this is a long haul. And you just have to stay in touch with that big picture periodically. The grand scheme, as it were. Run, little brother, run along and wrestle with the world. Find yourself a niche and blow your way right through it. Find your perfect place to make your mark, and when you're ready, get down to it. All that hard work, you'll be glad you gave. You got a future out there somewhere, and you gotta go have to remember and remind myself that even though I haven't totally cracked the code on making a living as an artist, I have tried a lot of things in the last 11 years of not having a full-time job and making a go of it on my own, because that's where it started. I've always wanted to work for myself. I've always wanted to, not necessarily freelance, but just to have either my own business or my own kind of my own vision for how to make a living and what to do. I wanted to be my own boss because I am very disciplined and motivated, and I thought if I could just be in charge of my schedule and not have to report to someone else arbitrarily, that might be my best chance at happiness. Now, once you get into that world, you discover there's a lot to learn. In addition to the thing that you're doing as a business, you're also building the business itself. So anyway, that whole learning curve, I've been involved in that. But also, when I first got into working on my own, I was kind of going back and forth between video editing and copywriting. I was writing, and journalism, like I was writing articles. So of course, for that, you're not just writing an article, you're pitching an article, you're reaching out to periodicals and saying, hey, can I write this article for you? It took a lot of that kind of outreach and trying things to realize writing was not the thing that I wanted to do for income. Writing was a thing that I wanted to do to support all of my other interests because one thing that you need as a business skill is to be a good writer, at least a pretty decent writer. You got to be able to tug at people's imaginations for the projects that you want to work on with them, that you want them to pay you to do. And you've got to be able to then speak well and communicate effectively as you're coordinating all of the terms of the project. And then you've got to be able to bill them. And all of these things are really helpful. It's helpful to be a decent writer for all that stuff. But it took me too long to write to make any real kind of money at it. I couldn't churn out content in a way that felt, at least at the price bracket I was kind of at, like I wasn't well known. And I'm sure the whole market has changed in the last 10 years. But I had like one area of expertise, and I was fairly confident at marketing myself in that area. But it just wasn't coming along fast enough to really build a career out of it. So, and what I really wanted to do was write stories. I didn't want to write content. I didn't want to write journalism copy. I didn't want to write marketing copy. I wanted to make stuff. I wanted to make movies. I wanted to make games. I wanted to make music. And music is something that I discovered along that way. So all of this to say, playing that song just now kind of sparked those memories for me. And I think this is a lot of what we do as people who are friends of artists, people who care about artists, is we're helping draw out their story and helping them get perspective on their whole trajectory, not just to look at, well, what have I done with my last 10 years of trying to make it? What do I have to show for it? Because let's face it, art is not a lasting medium, typically. And even if you win an award, there's nothing to guarantee that that award is going to get you something 2 years later. It's likely, but it's not a guarantee. So we just need help getting perspective on these things. I will say there was one time that somebody really tried to encourage me, and it was so sweet. Like, looking back, I can appreciate what it took to make that offer, but in the moment, it hurt my feelings. It did not feel good. So I had a situation where I was waiting to get paid for a couple of projects that I had done, and I had a few pitches that I had spent a lot of time and effort on that were not getting me anywhere. And meanwhile, I had to pay rent, and I realized I'm not going to make it. Like, the rent is due. It's okay to be a day or two late, but it's not okay to be as late as I'm going to need to be. This was pre-pandemic, so this might have been 2018, something like that. And I was just so frustrated. I was like, I'm tired of living paycheck to paycheck. I feel like I'm not good enough at what I do. And just all of the feelings and the exhaustion and the frustration of working all the time, it was just all landing. And I was just upset about it, the whole situation. Now, here's the thing. There was a solution. And I got the money together, and I was able to pay my rent. But meanwhile, I was just needed to vent, and I was feeling overwhelmed and frustrated. And my very well-meaning friend, who I was talking to, offered to let me move in with her. Oh, man. Can I just tell you how discouraging that was? I was just like, I can't even say right now how I feel about this. Like, thank you for that offer, but no. That's not the answer. That's just not the answer. Because the fact is that I can make a living at what I do. I've been doing it. There's a lot of potential to take what I've built and grow it. I'm not in a place where I need someone to rescue me. I'm just overwhelmed by the current troubles that I'm dealing with. And I wasn't able to articulate that in the moment. I just stepped away, thankfully, and didn't say anything that I regret now. So even though I very much appreciate that offer, still, it was a very, very kind, genuinely meant, but I was not in that place of needing to give up on making, I'm still confident that I have the marketable skills to make a great living at what I do. I just hadn't done it yet. And I needed some fuel. I needed some perspective. I needed a reason to believe that I could figure it out, to believe that I was close. So, does that resonate with anybody? Have you ever been in that situation, either someone trying to help you or you trying to help someone, and it just did not go over well? Let's see, Steve is speaking again. It says, lately I seem to find myself disagreeing with people when they try to encourage me. Oh, you're so good at blank. No, I'm no good at that. Any success is just dumb luck. Ah, interesting. So it's hard to actually believe that you're good at something. And it's easier to believe that you stumble across things that are good. That's good to know. That's good to know about yourself. And I'm curious what has sparked that reaction more recently. If it's you feel like other people are wandering into something good, stumbling across it dumbly, and so you're applying that logic to yourself, or you feel like not everybody agrees that what you do is good or you're good at something. And so yeah, I'm curious kind of where you have seen that turn of events emerging from. One thing that does help me in terms of encouraging myself, because it is hard for me sometimes to feel good about what I do. And this is a lot of the work that I'm doing is to be an encouragement to myself, because when you're discouraged, it's impossible to do anything. And then you're really stuck. So in the interest of self-preservation and just survival, I think it's worth it to learn what gets me out of bed in the morning, what helps me believe I can make a difference in my own life and benefit other people. So yeah, I'm curious where you've seen that attitude coming from. And if it really holds up, like, does it hold up to logic? And would you say the same thing about a friend of yours? Like, if you heard one of the other writers at the retreat and they made a great joke in their script, would you just think, well, that was an accident? They just hit dumb luck for that, and they managed to make me laugh. But that's not something that they have any control over, and they'll probably never do it again. That's a good like perspective check for me, to be like, would I say that about somebody else's work, or is it real that I'm feeling that about my work? First suggestion for those of us who are trying to encourage ourselves is to think about whatever we're believing as if we were going to say it to someone else that we care about. And for those of us who are trying to support others, just ask yourself, is this a time for me to talk, or is this time for me to listen? Let me ask more questions. Why do you think that? What makes you feel that way? How long have you been feeling this? What would make you feel better? Let me remind you about a thing that you did that got a good response from other people. And I believe in you. Just saying, I believe in you. I know that you will figure this out, and I'm here to help you. Just believing that there is a solution sometimes is what you need. Because often it feels like you're just trying the same thing over and over, hoping that it'll turn out differently, and you don't really know why. But it takes a little finessing. This isn't always a time to try to fix it. Sometimes it's a time to just feel the feelings. Be like, yeah, you're tired. You've been at this a long time. You want it to be going differently. Don't we all? I get that. We have those times. Steve says, I think it's a result of venturing out of my comfort zone. I know where my talents lie, but trying something new, I see all the flaws and how far I still have to go. Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Outside Comfort Zone Club. We should have our own anthem. I'm outside of my comfort zone and I feel bad. Yes, very uncomfortable out there, isn't it? And you're not really sure how long it will take to figure this out. And we want to retreat. And I think there is absolutely time to just feel that, to be like, yeah, I just tried something, mixed results, not sure if I'm ever going to do it again. And I feel kind of not embarrassed, but I just feel exposed. I feel like I just showed everybody something I'm not super proud of. And I kind of wonder if they're judging me, but I mostly just wish it was better. My taste doesn't yet match my skill level. And maybe, I think it's Brene Brown that talks about the vulnerability hangover. Have you heard of that concept? Basically, whenever she has shared something with a group, like when she teaches and speaks and writes books, she's always sharing from her life. And sometimes that feels really like a lot. Like you have just invited the world to examine something that is very private. Not an overshare, but just more than you're used to allowing other people to see. And it's kind of tiring. It's tiring. It's frustrating. It's maybe not as polished as you wanted it to be. And that's real. And I definitely feel that. I've felt that many times, even just this summer. And I coach myself through it by recognizing that I always feel this after I have shared something that I feel uncomfortable doing. And usually I just need to not think about it. Just like pretend that didn't happen. In about 3 days, I'll have so much more perspective on it. Get some rest. Hide away in your comfort zone for a little while. Be cozy, be comfy. Recognize that this is a very common response. And that this is not a time to make any decisions about how well you're doing in life or what sort of choices you're making. This is you're just having that hangover time. Oops. And it will pass. Oh my goodness, it's already been 30 minutes. I've been talking a lot. I've only played you one song today. I feel a little bit off today, but I hope this is still helpful. I think it's a really important topic, and it's something that comes up so often. It's a thing that we just talk about all the time, really. Because at any moment you encounter someone who's feeling kind of bummed about whatever is happening in their life, whether it's their doing or something else or just something that happened to them. And so we spend a lot of our time interacting with one another, trying to help each other feel better about whatever that is, or sometimes not. I think there are times where the intent is not to make you feel better, it's to find out what did you do wrong, and that's not very helpful either. I kind of like that chord. It feels foreboding. Break up all this chit-chat and let you just think for a little while. This is a song about trees. Just to give us a little perspective. Among the Ponderosa trees, under the evergreen, we're dancing cheek to cheek, like lovers do. swaying in the breeze, pine cones beneath our feet, each one is whispering, I love you, I love you. Well, I hope that you feel encouraged today. You feel a little uplifted. Thanks for hanging out with me this last half hour, for hanging in there while I figured out what is going on here. Thanks for telling me your stories. If you would like to continue this conversation, I encourage you to come join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/adventurous spirits. I had a whole bunch of stuff I was going to talk about today, but it's just getting to be a long episode. So let's mosey over to the Facebook group. Maybe I'll put more in the blog on my website, CortneyMatz.com. I have some very practical tips on supporting artists in ways that don't cost you anything, in ways that don't take a whole lot of time, but that just help us feel like we're less alone. Especially as an artist, when you're trying to support your fellow artist friends. Sometimes it feels very overwhelming and like you're trying so hard just to keep your own spirits up. And then it's tough to then say something meaningful or be supportive in a meaningful way to someone that you care about. So let's keep talking about this. It's going to keep coming up. And if you'd like more artists in your life, or you feel like just having more people who are in this work with you would be helpful, I encourage you to check out epiphanyspace.com. There's co-working here during the week in Hollywood. There's all sorts of hybrid events for writing groups, for project management, for getting your stuff done. Mostly there are listening ears and people who know what it's like to work through all of these topics for themselves. And as you go out there and try to make a difference in your world, I hope that you find what it is that you got into this for in the first place, that you can reconnect with that initial childlike delight that just makes the world seem new. And I hope that you just have a great time out there. I'll see you next time.